Hey there, new types. Here we are again with another weekend that has put Blurple on display as the deck to beat. This coming weekend, we're going straight into New Type Challenge Mission 2, right on the heels of Worlds 2026, showcasing Amuro and Blurple with an impressive display of dominance in the current metagame. Not only that, but we got to see the STO104 problem from before showing up again and raising concerns that STO9 is going to add yet another absolute must have for competitive gameplay. Luckily, Blurple has always been on the radar, and those of us testing for this coming new type challenge have been working with decks with that in mind. Continuing to work on Blue White and the Unicorn Gundam, we brought another tune variant to our locals with hopes of further tuning the deck. This time, I've added TheO, and as you'll see from this gameplay, it's earned itself a space in the deck. However, if you don't have time or inclination to sit through the gameplay, you can skip ahead to the yap/breakdown at the end. I don't really mind. I'm just happy you clicked on the video at all. As always, I want to give a massive shout out to my community and local game store. Not only do they put up with my camera and accommodate me, but the players are skilled and the stores are very generous with time and space, so none of this would be possible without them. If you like what you see, please consider giving the video a like and the channel a follow. And if you're so inclined, please drop a comment below. I appreciate any and all interaction, and I do my very best to reply to each and every one of you when you do. Now, let's get this battle started. Pink Jedi Guy, full armor blockers, mission start. All right, here we go. This is after the dice roll that I won, so I'm going second. I get a banagher, a Paptimus, an ale strike, a launcher strike, and an overflowing affection. I decide this is worth keeping. My opponent did not keep their hand, so they are mulliganing. I could fish for something on a lower curve, maybe like a Lifrith or a Rictius, but I feel like a draw plus overflowing is good enough. I don't actually know what my opponent's playing. I am suspecting Blurple, but I don't know for sure. And I actually think with Blurple, you can kind of afford to go a little minorly slower as long as you can not get completely flooded out. So my opponent gets their first resource and they pass the turn. I draw the O, play my resource, and play my overflowing affection. I draw into a Rick Diaz and a launcher strike, which is pretty good for me. So I do throw the second launcher strike into the bin and pass the turn. My opponent reveals that they're going pretty fast here as well. Maybe 1 Year War with double Hyzak. I have the no-brainer play now, which is just playing down my Rick Diaz and passing the turn. My opponent makes a swing at my base, and I actually let them get this one through because I feel like you always let the first swing through, especially when they're only at 3 resources. I don't really want to give them too much of an option of playing like maybe a gun cannon down for some value. So they play the Gundam Barbatos. That first form telling me they're on Blurple. I actually take a swing at their Hyzak because I kind of want to see what they do here. Kind of giving them more options instead of a standard play that they can do that they may be forced to deviate off their own ones. Get my launcher strike down and pass the turn. They do decide to take out my base. I will say my opponent's taken a little bit to think, so me giving them options and seeing if they feel like they have options rather than a linear play is actually really good for me, in my opinion. So they do play the Mika onto the Barbatos first form, ping it, and try to draw that card. I do block with my Launcher Strike. And just knowing that they have options means that they have more utility cards than they have, like, super aggressive. So they play the Amuro, and oh, it's not the Amuro, the RX-78, and I believe they have an Amuro in hand. So knowing that, I actually decide not to play my Corsica base. Go for the Ale Strike here. And then I pass my turn. I could have played, like, Paptimus or banagher onto it, but I decide, because I have a second one, I'm going to just try to keep my EX resource behind. They do have the Amuro. They play it down and tap down my Ale Strike, going after my shields with their units instead of my Ale Strike, which I wonder if that was right or not, but I realize they have, like, a pretty ping heavy hand, which I am pretty happy that some of my read was correct. But they do flood the board pretty scary. So I have a couple options here, which is, Launcher and Corsica, or I can try and do a minor amount of board control with my Ale Strikes. And I do decide to go for the Ale Strike option here, where I actually throw down banagher onto my Ale Strike that's existing to bounce their, their O Gundam. And I could play the launcher here, but I actually decide I'm gonna go and drop the Ale instead. After I take out their RX-78. So part of this is a little bit of a feint to kind of signal that I maybe don't have another blocker option in hand, and also that I don't have a pilot in hand to block, because most times a lot of people would put a pilot on. So they take a swing at my shield, give me an Amuro. I decide to block the Hyzak just in case they have over the Angsha, just in case they have ping in hand, leaving my Ale with 2 HP. Now it has 1, and they do not have the third ping in hand, or the second ping rather, which is, I think, good for me because now I'm able to play onto the Paptimus turn. The Amuro I got from that was also incredibly helpful. It allows me to do the next thing that I do without sacrificing my Ale Strike. So again, I have a couple options here. Some of that involves, like, the launcher and the RX-78. I just do a little bit of math in my head here. So I play out TheO and Paptimus, giving my Ale Strike repair. Repair 2, actually. And then I put Amuro onto my Ale and use my EX resource, finally. I actually forget to do the bounce here. Or not the bounce here, the rest here. I bounce their gym, and using Ale, I take a swing at their gun, and I rest the Anksha because of the O's ability, and then I take out the other Anksha. Ale gets healed down to 4 HP because of the repair 2, and I have the O still up. Now my opponent decides they're just going to go for base. They don't have a link, so I still live, and that's basically what I needed to kind of survive this. They only have 2 cards in hand, so I get to play out my Corsica. Get my Tallgeese token. Take out their Anksha with my TheO. And then take out their O Gundam with my Ale Strike. Play out the Launcher Strike from my hand, finally. And then play the Overflowing Affection. I get an Ale Strike and a Show of Resolve, so I actually decide to pitch my Grandpa Gundam. And pass the turn and heal my TheO. Ping my Ale Strike. And then play Mika onto my Ale Strike, or onto their gym, and then kill my Ale Strike with the ping damage. They decide to go for my base. I do the block with the launcher because I'd like my base to be as healthy as possible. Play my Show of Resolve. And then play my Overflowing Affection that I get off of it. So that's all of my Overflowing Affection. I decide to discard the Full Armor Unicorn here and play 2 blockers, which is what I was basically fishing for. Take out their base, then take out their shield and give them an amuro, which is a little dangerous. The only reason I did swing with the O into their base there was because I did have double blocker. They get themselves a Tallgeese token with their Corsica base. So we know they have an amuro in hand. Now I'm not actually sure what else they have in hand, considering they've played so many Mikas. So I'm actually playing a little bit of a gamble with some of my decision making, just based on what they could possibly have. My opponent takes a swing at my Corsica. I actually decide to block with my Lefrith, and they do play the Amuro, so my potential gamble was punished. They did play Mika on first form, so they are going to be able to break my base, but they did lose their entire hand to do it. Which was part of the gamble here. I wasn't sure they'd have Mika first form, and honestly, my opponent has been drawing incredibly well with that. Like that's some crazy work for me to have to deal with. Triple Mika, double first form, double Amuro now. They put the damage on my Rick Diaz and then take a swing at my Corsica to kill it, but they do leave me with 2 blockers. 2 blockers, and they have a single card up. They just recount their resources. They should be at 2. Not a big deal, honestly. And then they get Anksha to ping my Lefrith for 2. or down to 2 HP, and we untap our stuff. I don't know why I forgot to untap my TheO, but you know, we'll get there. I play the Unicorn and Banagher. With the Banagher, I just top deck, which, you know, I'm doing pretty good on my top decks now, too, which I am very grateful for here. Got to keep up with my opponent, after all. However, this allows me to once again maintain control of the board. Um, actually use my damaged Lefrith to take out the first form. Then I take a swing at their Corsica base, and I rest their Tall Geese. It's been a while since people have seen Destroy Mode. Caught them a little bit off surprise. I take out their Tall Geese with my Rick DS, and then use my Tall Geese token to play to put amuro on, which I honestly probably should have put the amuro on the Rick DS and then sent the Tall Geese into the guy, but I was in I was in I was a couple turns ahead of myself here. So I did, however, never punished. So justice with the token. My opponent's got no cards in hand. Justice token, and then Ale Strike down. I take a swing at their I take a swing at their shields with the Unicorn. Resting the Graze, kill that with my TheO, and then I take out another one of their shields. Put 2 damage on TheO, pass the turn, and heal, and there we are. Opponent has 1 card in hand, no plays. Unless they have double base, they're kind of screwed, but even then. So I take out a shield, give them an amuro, and then take out their other shield. And that's all she wrote. Definitely a misplay on my part there with the All Geese Rick Diaz situation, but you know, we get better as we play and think more. GG's. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that gameplay. Definitely a misplay at the end with the Rick Diaz and Tall Geese token. I definitely should have just put Rick Diaz on, and for some reason in my brain when I was going back over it, I had thought, you know, the Tall Geese token was going to be immune to a top deck Fatal Strike, and the Rick Diaz wasn't. So it was just a weird train of thought, and I think I was just not thinking super great. Either way, it worked out, but it definitely was a misplay. I should have put amuro on the Rick Diaz instead of the Tall Geese token and just sacrificed the token. Now, onto the deck. This is very similar to the Unicorn, the Full Armor Unicorn deck that I brought before in the previous video that we showcased here. However, this one we took out Kira and we put in more Banagers and Paptimus. And I think this version going forward is going to be the way I run it. I don't think Kira was incredibly necessary and never really felt like he was needed in the deck. The only thing I'd say about this deck is I kind of want more Paptimus, like 3 Paptimus. Let me think here. So the major changes, I did take out the unicorn mode, the 5/3, just to add in more full armors. And I think that was correct. Not having Kira, I actually think that maybe I drop one of the Ale Strikes as well. I do really like Launcher Strike, and sometimes I feel like Rick Diaz as a, you know, with 8 of them, it might be a little too much. So I still think 3 Rick Diaz, 4 Lefrith is right. Rick Diaz at 3 HP just still doesn't really feel like the best card you could run, and Launcher Strike with 4 HP um, has always felt very strong. I do think the X4 stat line is kind of where you want to be in the Gundam card game. So if you have less than 4 HP, you have to justify yourself well, as you know, you have to justify the decision of running a card like that yourself in these type of decks. Now, the main highlight really is the choice of TheO and the destroy mode. And as you see that it has carried over from last week to this week. And that's, as you saw in this gameplay, it's been incredibly useful. I know there's, a thought of maybe I should run Masala over it. Masala might be working with the O a little bit better. But I do find that if you play Masala, especially on curve, it tends to get targeted or dealt with sooner than you really need it to. And I do think that there is benefit in being able to have the combo piece of full armor unicorn mode into the destroy mode and then play another banagher. Because you do get to draw with banagher pretty frequently in this deck, I'd say. Um, and the ability to even give it repair and then swing and rest 2 units has come up, and it was actually a thing that happened in the previous gameplay I had, or previous match rather I had, and it actually was a thing that happened last iteration of the deck as well, where I was just able to go unicorn and add in hit someone with a amuro and just do the the double rest. So adding yet another way to like double rest and potentially even triple rest in a single turn is it feels really strong to me, and I like having that type of game, like that type of tool in my arsenal. Um, the blockers part is pretty standard, and I actually consider the justice part of the blockers. And Justice is where I think you have wiggle room. Justice could be 2 Masalas, or it could be 2 full armor level 8s. I actually am not loving the level 8 full armor. I know that like facing up against it in this deck gets a little, with this deck especially, gets a little dangerous because that 8 HP is rough. I do find I'm able to deal with it most of the time, and so far it hasn't really felt like a big deal. And Justice being able to help me catch up for the big turn refill with tokens, because I'm running 2 white bases and 2 Corsica bases, has made me feel like I'm able to do a fair amount with this deck in terms of catch up or coming refilling the board after some board control needs. I also do really like, being able to go drop Justice down and then drop TheO. Um, and I know that Masala comes down a turn earlier, but I often find that holding back one more turn for Justice plus TheO tends to get me into a much stronger position than anything else. Um, I'm not running unforeseen incidents. I'm not running healthy curiosity. Unforeseens, I don't feel like is super necessary for this deck. You are generally being pretty aggressive, and it's hard to hold back resources until the late game for unforeseen, and I don't feel like it has as much value as it could in that regard. The choice between overflowing affection and healthy curiosity is mostly because this deck you're running 2 Paptimus, and there are points where like you want to be able to dig for your pilot rather than try and like just see one. I'd rather see two just to get my pilot. And for me, I don't really care if I reveal my colors or anything too early to my opponent, because in most cases, even just revealing full armor at least makes them weary of the big unicorn, and that's not really a big deal to me. The only times I'm really concerned is if I ever have to pitch a Paptimus, a destroy mode, or a like, banagher or TheO, which I almost never do in the first place. Um, Other than that, this deck really is what you're trying to do is do shield management and just kind of trying to get to a point where you can stabilize with a base or a couple shields left. As you saw, I lost all my shields, played out a base after I'd lost all my shields, and more or less rode off of the single base that I had, along with a steady stream of blockers. and board control with TheO and the Unicorn Destroy mode. However, like I said in the last video, this is still just a skeleton. Um, if you're gonna use a list like this, I think you still need to tune it to your preferences. Again, Justice, Paptimus, TheO, even the Ale Strikes and the Rick Diaz, all of these cards can kind of fluctuate. You might not even use the same bases. You might decide to go, 2 white base, 2 DeVal, which is completely reasonable. You might want more a Show of Resolve. You might want Healthy Curiosity instead of Overflowing Affection. All of these things are totally possible and totally valid to run. You just need to tune this core of the deck to your liking. And part of me doing this video is to showcase that, Destroy mode and TheO is still good. And I think that there are ways for you to build them into a deck. And I'm really liking the way this deck has been built for my own personal preferences and the way it's performed. But you know what? I think I'll leave it at that. We won't yap too long. Let's not get to the 10 minutes on this. So I'll leave you with that and say thanks for watching. Good luck in your new type challenges. If you happen to do well, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.